1974. A 12-year-old kid in Canada who loved his father, Percy, was a happy kid. His father was a jazz musician, a stand-up comic, an entertainer, and always the life of the party. And the young man admired his father. And when it came time to get a job, his father, who could have been a terrific entertainer, became an accountant. Why? It was safe. Oh, he hated it. That didn't matter. It was safe. And then he got fired. And that 12-year-old went from a nice, middle-class background to poverty overnight. Had to live in a van. At 12, he had to do janitor work to help out his family. And they literally lived out of a van. But this 12-year-old kid made an observation. And it's an observation that I called feeding the right wolf the best food imaginable. Here's his observation. My father failed at something he hated. I'm going to spend my life doing something I love. Because the worst that'll happen to me is I'll fail at what I love. His name, Jim Carrey. I guess it worked. Folks, the secret to success is do what you love. You had it right, Mike. Do what you love and learn how to monetize it. Because everything else is bullshit. And that's the truth. Last speaker. Derek Eisenberg and Colby Sombrado started a business called BYO Holdings. You know it better as BYOWNER.com. Very successful. Years ago, they started a business called ForSaleByOwner.com, and in 2008, they sold it to the Chicago Tribune for $70 million. When I needed an appraiser, I went to Ruth right here, who is, without a doubt, the best mortgage broker on the planet. I said, Ruth, find me an appraiser who's so good, he's willing to appraise a Norman Castle, for which there are no comps, there are no comparisons. Nobody knows how to appraise a Norman Castle. But along came Derek Eisenberg, and he had the balls to take it on. And I can tell you right now, the appraisal was brilliant. One of the most brilliant appraisers on the planet Earth, Derek Eisenberg.
I guess we're pressed for time. This is our first time presenting this company publicly, and we're going to try to do it in tandem, which may be a little bit awkward, but we're going to give it a shot. My name is Colby Sambrato. I'm the CEO of BYOWNER.com, and this is our coming out speech about BYOWNER.com. We've been working on it for a year and a half. As was mentioned in the intro, I have worked in the space before. We didn't work together on ForSaleByOwner.com, but we knew each other back then, and I've done a number of startups in the space. ForSaleByOwner.com is probably the most famous just because it had a meteoric rise and a meteoric exit. It was a company that I started with my partner at the time for about $100,000 that we scraped together. And then the two of us worked in an office kind of back to back on two computers, and we said, oh, let's try to get this to $5,000 a month in revenue, and we spent a year doing that. And then we spent a year trying to get it to $50,000 a month in revenue, and then $5 million a month in revenue, and it just kept growing and growing. So that was a meteoric rise. It was kind of a rocket ship ride experience. And afterwards, as I looked back at that and worked on other projects in the space, I realized that it wasn't just hard work and talent, it was hard work and some talent and the model. And I thought if I could get back into that space, I would do it. And this is BYOWNER.com.
I'm Derek Eisenberg, and Colby and I are partners. And I started as an appraiser here in Manhattan. As a young appraiser, I worked on a number of big buildings, including the Chrysler Building, and then expanded into retail, shopping centers. And during the course of my career, I teamed up with a guy that had a small residential appraisal business. And eventually I ended up buying him out and building it into a large regional appraisal shop, mostly doing houses for mortgage companies. Over 10,000 houses a year we were doing back in the day. In Maryland, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. And we were joining all of the multiple listing services which the realtors use to list homes. And at one point it dawned on me that if I could take listings in these MLSs, since my dues were covered by the appraisals, that my overhead would be dramatically reduced, and I could really do well with the commission revenue. And so I started taking listings, and some of my early ones, I live in North Jersey, and I got the phone rang, and it was somebody down in Philadelphia, and there was no way I could sit in an open house in Philadelphia on a Sunday. So I came up with a model that would allow me to take the listings, charge the people less money, but they would man the house. If they needed a lockbox, we would ship them one, and they could put that on the house so the realtors could get in. But I was basically doing everything but opening the door, anything that could be done remotely. And at the time, it was like late 90s, early 2000, the dot-coms were going crazy, and that was the perfect medium to expand this concept. So as the years went by, we grew, and we're now in 46 states in the District of Columbia. We'll have the remaining 4 states by the end of the year. I'm the broker in 27 of them. Ed's sitting here, has a bunch of them, and a couple other people in my office. And we cover every major market in the United States, other than just the states of, you want to advance the slide, one slide, Ed? Other than Oregon, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin, all of which we'll have in about 3 or 4 months. So as that was going along, I'd seen Colby's success, and I wanted to repeat that. I was searching for a top-level domain in the space, and I knew Colby, and we started speaking, and he had had a non-compete for a number of years after he sold to Trib, and when that ended, he and I teamed up and got BYOWNER going.
We can stay on this slide for a second. So let's just take one more minute just to talk about what BYOWNER.com is. BYOWNER.com is a national real estate brokerage. So it's licensed to do business in 46 states, including the District of Columbia. Within those states, we're a member of every, I say, meaningful MLS board, which is any MLS board that covers a meaningful population of people. And so what that lets us do is, from one central website or from your smartphone, you can place your property for sale in your local MLS. That goes back to one centralized location. Our people who work in northern New Jersey are able to then log into that MLS and place the property for sale within any given MLS across the country. The other benefit to being a member of every meaningful MLS is that for buyers, we're able to pull down the data from the MLS boards in what's called an IDX feed. An IDX feed is just a data feed from the MLS that allows you to show the properties for sale within the MLS on your website. So for home sellers, we've got the ability to list your property for sale from your living room at midnight on a Saturday night, and you can create your listing. And most importantly, and this is probably the biggest part of the story, is you get to choose your commission, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. But that then goes to our data entry people. It goes on the web. For buyers, we have all the listings for sale across the United States. So you can come on our website, find the same listings you might find on Zillow, but then you have flexibility with your commission when it comes time to start making offers on that property or organizing a showing of that property.
And you could also find listings that are not on other sites because we take by owner listings as well as the realtor-generated listings. So we actually have more inventory than like traditional sites like Realtor.com or Zillow because of the private listings.
Yeah, thank you. I think the big thing we need to talk about is why BYOWNER.com exists. The United States has a gigantic problem specific to one industry, and that is the 6% commission in residential real estate. It's crushing. It's an odd transaction fee across asset classes. I mean, if you were going to sell $400,000 worth of stock, you're not paying 6%. You probably pay nothing. It's odd across.
You don't pay nothing, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, not right, exactly. But it's even odd across other Western developed countries. So in France, for example, half of all transactions don't involve an agent or any commission at all. In the UK, which is probably the most analogous real estate market to the United States, 2% is the average. So Americans are kind of, they struggle with the 6%. And the 6% is based upon your gross sales price, but it comes out of your net. So it's particularly difficult for the seller. And we're going to talk about that again in a second. The other thing I would say is my former company, for SellByOwner.com, is now owned by Rocket Mortgage. And there's just a vacuum in the space for people who want to be able to sell their property and keep more of their equity. Rocket is not running that with an eye towards helping people save money. They're running it with an eye towards generating leads for their mortgage officers. And the same is true for Redfin, which is the only other player in the space that actually helps home sellers save money. Redfin is also now owned by Rocket. So if you're a consumer out there trying to sell a property, you don't really have any really legitimate options in the space.
Yeah, they basically got rid of the for sale by owner MLS product. If you go to forsalebyowner.com, you can just get a basic ad, or it's a full service real estate agent. And there's a huge percentage of customers that are in the middle that really want kind of like a tool rental. They want you to give them the professional tools that realtors use, but let them do a lot of that themselves. And it's not just to save money. For a lot of them, it's about control. They think they can market their house better. They want to negotiate. They feel they can get a higher price if they negotiate themselves. And when Rocket took that away with For Sale by Owner, it just created this massive vacuum. The other player in the space, Owners.com, was bought by Altisource, a huge mortgage servicer, a number of years ago. And they had a different focus, and they basically just shelved the FSBO product. So we're the only really big game in the space right now, and it's ripe for expansion.
Last point on this slide, and I'll just mention it quickly. You don't have to go back. The regulatory agencies are making an effort finally on the part of the consumer to try to bring real estate brokerages under control, and they're trying to get them to lower the commissions. But real estate brokerages, as they exist now, are pretty inflexible. They can't really change their model because they answer to tens of thousands of agents in the communities that they serve. So they're kind of stuck at 6%. We're not. Right? We cover the entire country in the same way that Century 21 does, but rather than having 17,000 agents on the street, we have 10 people, right? And that gives us the flexibility to lower our pricing and still keep our margins. And the value proposition that we're providing to people is what allows us to acquire customers in a really cheap manner relative to the Century 21s of the world.
One Friday, my phone started ringing off the hook. All of my listings disappeared from Zillow, Realtor.com, all the sites, they all dropped off. Customers were calling like crazy, what'd you guys do? You took my listing off. Turned out, and this was with Monmouth County, right across the river. Turned out that they passed a board rule. They had a meeting at 4:30. They had their computer programmers ready in advance to filter out all of the listings that were of the ilk that mine were. And what we do is we use a type of listing. The traditional listing that you see in MLS is what's called an exclusive right to sell. But there's another type of listing called an exclusive agency, where you're the exclusive listing realtor, but the owner retains the right to sell by owner at the same time. So when your listing is out there, a buyer could go directly to the owner of the house, or they could go to their realtor who would show them your listing. Well, the MLSs were up in arms over that because they felt that some buyers would skirt their buyer's agent and go directly to the seller. And they, without notice, purged all of my listings on a Friday afternoon. I immediately contacted all my clients. We changed it to a situation where if a buyer wanted to come direct, they could go through me for $1. We just created a workaround and we got the listings back up. But I wrote to the Federal Trade Commission, who asked me a couple of questions and then said nothing for 4 years. 4 years later, one day I see plastered on the front of the Monmouth MLS a consent decree signed by the MLS for antitrust, whereby they admitted their fault and they said that they would never do it again. I did the same thing to Pittsburgh. I did the same thing to Bergen County. Most recently, the state of West Virginia passed a law that we had to have a bricks and mortar office in their state. Taking after Colby, who years earlier had taken on California with For Sale by Owner, where he got the Institute for Justice to go after the Real Estate Commission because they were deeming For Sale by Owner websites to be real estate brokerage, and they were trying to force him to get a license. He sued them in federal court and won. I wrote my case about the bricks and mortar office to both the Institute of Justice and Pacific Legal, both of who responded immediately. Pacific Legal took action on my behalf against West Virginia, and the Attorney General immediately called my attorney and they capitulated, they changed their law. Within 60 days, their legislature convened and the governor signed a law that we no longer had to have an office in their state as long as my home state, New Jersey, did not make their licensees have an office in New Jersey. Right now, we're in federal court. We're literally waiting for the decision, which should come down any day now, with Nevada. We sued because I have to maintain an office in Las Vegas. There's 8 other states that have similar laws: Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, California, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. If we get a favorable decision in Nevada, we're going to go after all of them this year. So the courts and the regulators seem to be on our side. We're doing what's right for business. We're doing what's right for consumers. So hopefully, we're on to something there.
Do you want to talk to this, speak to this? Do you want me to talk to this, speak to the next slide?
Sure, yes.
One last thing about commissions that people don't realize is, and I want to make this point just so that everyone understands the significance of the problem facing the consumer. 6% really isn't the commission that the consumer pays, for most people anyway. That's the gross commission that you pay. But let's say, and just to keep the math simple for me, you're selling a $100,000 house. You own half of it, the bank owns the other half in the form of a $50,000 mortgage. You sell it via a full service agent. They're going to charge you 6%, it's going to be $6,000. But guess what? Mortgage companies don't contribute to commission, so that $6,000 comes entirely out of your $50,000 proceeds. That's a 12% commission. And the lower your equity, the greater that gross commission represents in your net. And it's not unusual in the United States for people to be paying net commissions of something like 25, 30%. And that's their nest egg. That's all the money they've got in the world. And we help them cut their commissions by 80, 90%, saving them enough money where they can help offset the cost of a child's education, help pay for their own retirement, make a bigger down payment on their next house. So the stakes are high. You can go ahead, Ed. We're putting together the best in breed of partners that we can right now for launch. Already we've got some big players on board with us. We also kind of buried the lead on this a little bit because we have a partnership with Walmart that hasn't been announced yet. And by virtue of that partnership, our brand and our service will be advertised in 3 locations in every Walmart store nationwide. So that's 4,000 plus stores. That's 250 million people passing by those signs on a weekly basis. So clearly some Americans are visiting more than once in a week, most likely. It's 1 billion people a month who see those ads. And the ad is really simply just buying or selling real estate, cut your commissions, choose your commissions. There's a QR code. You zap it with your smartphone. You see our services. If the consumer spends on our website, we give a portion back to the consumer in the form of a rebate, and we pay that back to them in a gift certificate to Walmart. So we call it the Boomerang program. Everybody wins. Walmart wins, the consumer wins, we get customers, and we rebate back a portion of the commission.
And while they're printing all the literature and kiosks for that, we are going to be on Walmart.com ahead of the retail stores in just a few weeks. We'll be featured there. Fathom Realty, they are a real estate brokerage, a national real estate brokerage with entrepreneurial agents that rather than splitting their commission with their broker, they pay a desk fee to hang their license with a broker, and they keep 100% of their commissions. And we partnered with them because we needed boots on the ground. We're great for listing homes, but if you want to buy a home, while we generate all this traffic, we don't have people, an army of agents to go out and show those homes. And so by partnering with Fathom, where their agents are 100% agents, we could strike a synergy whereby we refer them our buyer leads, their agents go out and show it, and because they're keeping the lion's share of their commission and paying a desk fee, they could afford to pay us a referral fee of 25% of the commission. So if a Fathom agent shows a buyer the average $400,000 house in the United States, and say a 3% commission is being offered on that $400,000 house for the buy side, that's $12,000, and Fathom would cut us a check for $3,000 for the buyer lead. So
You can advance it, Ed, thank you. I'm going to try to speed it up. I want to get through everything. I don't know how much time we have left. 5 minutes. Okay. We do have traction. We're starting on the 50-yard line, in my opinion, right? This is a year-and-a-half-old company, but what we've got available to us at this point in time is significant. The 4 big things that I highlight here are, number one, we have the best brand names in the business for what we do. We have BYOWNER.com, we own BYOWNER.com, and we have their associated toll-free numbers. So we have the best brands. The brands tell the consumer immediately what they're going to get by going to the site, and people search out the site as it is to find the services for free. Let me skip to the third one, which is a significant benefit. Because of our value proposition, people beat a path to our door, which is what we found at ForSaleBanner.com. They're trying to save money. And so at this point, we are generating in excess of 500,000 people visiting the site on a monthly basis, and that's all organic. We don't pay for that. That 500,000 people visiting the site monthly is generating tens of thousands of TCPA compliant leads across 3 different buckets, which is home buyers, home sellers, and home renters. And those are valuable leads. Second is we already have a couple $1 million in revenue. I feel like this business is pre-revenue in a sense because we really haven't started marketing it. We haven't turned on the Walmart partnership, but already people are on the site generating revenues on a monthly basis. Last but not least, of course, is the aforementioned Walmart deal. That's in place. That's launching in Q2, but we're going to follow that up with other big box retailers who we've already been speaking with, including Home Depot.
and just to add on that, BYOWNER is a perfect 7 digits. We have 800 BYOWNER as our phone number. BYOWNER does not suffer what For Sale by Owner suffers, which is you can put for rent in front of it, you can put vacation rentals in front of it, you can put cars in front of it. So that offers a whole bunch of other horizontal opportunity. And by the way, we get a ton of rental leads. We can't even believe how many people are looking for apartments. And our listings go on all of the top apartment sites, like, for example, CoStar's Apartments.com pulls from the MLS. So if you list with by owner, you end up on Apartments.com. So we can explore the rental aspect. Vacation rentals, I mean, VRBO and Airbnb, I mean, the success is phenomenal, and we plan to go after that. And, you know, when Colby sold For Sale by Owner.com to the Tribune, eBay was bidding against them. So we have a lot of, you know, we can go after a lot of the market that eBay is in as well. So
we'll try to get through the last couple slides really quickly. These are just the takeaways for the business for anyone who might be willing or interested in talking to us about investing. Number one, we're a national technology-enabled real estate brokerage. We address a gigantic market, and it's a disruptive technology and model. Two, we have a huge value proposition, which means acquiring customers is significantly less expensive and less difficult than our big commission competitors. We already have massive lead flow. We really are raising money to monetize the lead flow that we're getting deluged with on a monthly basis. There really is no competition in the space right now, and I think that will remain the case for some time. And finally, we have a seasoned management team, so if you can go. Every single person on this list is an operator who's started or exited a company in online real estate. And so we just have a great breadth of experience that we can draw on. And it's a massive benefit on a weekly, monthly basis because we have all those, there's no Rolodexes anymore, but we have all those connections to mine, and it's been very effective.
Greg, for example, pioneered foreclosure.com before selling it 10 years or so ago.
We get the last ones. I guess we can go to the investment, I suppose. These are projections. Yeah, this is great. I mean, we're raising money for four things. Technology, we need better technology. We have technology, but we need native apps. We need agentic AI. We need marketing and intelligent marketing. We know how to market the service. We know how much it costs to acquire a customer. At this point, we just need additional capital to acquire more customers. And we can acquire them cheaply via Walmart. We do want to be able to pursue a roll-up strategy if there's a tactical reason to make an acquisition in the space, and those come along on a regular basis. And we want to make some key hires, specifically CMO and CTO.
And just to tell you a little bit about agentic apps, we're building an app now that when a buyer lead comes in to see a house, it uses an Uber-like mapping app that finds what agents are available for an immediate showing within a few miles of the house that the buyer wants to see. Additionally, it's going to rate the agents. So if there's 4 agents, within a mile, but one of them has a better close ratio, the lead is going to go to the agents that produce the most closure. So that's one of the things we're working on. And
I'll just close with this. If you want to go to this slide, yeah. We've targeted $25 million in complete capital raise. We would do that in a staged manner based upon benchmarks that are reached by the business. And I think, not to beat a dead horse here, but we really are starting with the giant lead on anyone else in the space. We're going to get there. It's a powerful model. People like it. People want it. And its margins are pretty healthy.
And you can see from the slides what, the other billion-dollar companies in the space have started out, raising and what they did with it. And I mean, I honestly think our model is better than theirs because it bridges both the owner aspect as well as the realtor aspect. We're actually kind of invading from within. We're for sale by the owner site that's actually a brokerage. So we've got the best of both worlds.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's close with the best food for the best wolf. Next week begins baseball season. I love this time of year. Why? Well, it's my favorite sport. I was a pitcher in the Little Leagues and the Babe Ruth Leagues. So I especially love the pitching aspect. And this is the time of year where we all sit back and we figure out who's going to be the next Cy Young winner. Terrence Skubal, Paul Skeens, maybe Yamamoto of the Dodgers. We don't know. But it's fun to speculate. It also reminds me, when I was a little kid, I saw an interview with Cy Young. Not when he was an immortal pitcher, when he was an old man working in his Ohio farm. And the sports writer was so enthused to meet this guy. He walked up to him and he said, "Mr. Young, when I was a kid, I sat in the stands. I used to watch you. You were terrific." To which the immortal pitcher said, "Terrific? I was the best." I said, boy, this guy's not high up on modesty, is he? And the sports writer then enthusiastically went on, and he said, what do you think of today's pitchers? And again, the immortal pitcher said, they're a bunch of sissies. That's all they are. When they get in trouble, the manager comes out, brings in a relief pitcher. But in my day, when I got in trouble, the manager came out, handed me the ball, looked me in the eye and said, now pitch your way out of trouble. And all my life, every time I ran into difficulty, every time I fell on my face, I took that ball and I pitched my way out of trouble. To which the now inspired sports writer looked at him and said, God bless you, Mr. Young. To which I thought, and this for someone like everyone in this room has spent some time in hell, that God always blesses those who take the ball and pitch their way out of trouble. I will see you all in June.